Welcome, Wrestle Buddies, to the Wrestle Buddy podcast special edition. Been a lot of wrestling news, and we were talking in our chat before, and we thought, you know what, we're not going to get through everything on Sunday. So, we're here with a brand new cast. Unfortunately, the King couldn't join us today, so we've got the Jester. Hello, Zane.
No, fuck you. It's a special edition only because I'm on here. So yeah, that's why this episode is titled a special edition.
Yeah, it's a special edition. The fact that your internet hasn't cut out yet.
Yeah,
I'm surprised as well, to be honest.
And then we've got the ever reliable Nicholas. How we doing, Nick?
I'm good, mate. What a week. Can't wait to get stuck into this.
And then we've also got another expert in the chat. We've got Chinwag Dan. How we doing, Dan?
yeah, I'm doing good. As all the fellow Brits will be agreeing, the weather is lovely yet horrible at the same time.
It is. And just before we do start, Dan, what are you there? I know you've been doing a lot on like Pride Month and stuff at the moment. Just tell everyone what you're up to on it, because it's important, isn't it?
Yeah, so every June we do a series of content related around Pride Month called Being Proud, which is videos and episodes, interviews based around celebrating pride in wrestling, pride for ourselves as creators, and what the LGBT plus community means to wrestling right now. It's been amazing seeing the explosion, the amount of people who are now part of it and actively engaging with it. And seeing it stop being such a niche part of it. If you want to find our videos, obviously they're all over on our side, Sweet Chinwag. You can find them all there. All of that lovely stuff. It's been so much fun and so great getting all the stuff done this June.
Yeah. And make sure you do support it, guys. It's very important. You know, I was only talking to my kids the other day about this because they were saying to me, like, why is it Pride? Why do they get to have a month? But they're only young, you know what I mean? You don't understand it. And, you know, I was explaining to both my kids and saying, look, at the end of the day, like, they've had to fight to get this, so why shouldn't they have it? So, you know, I think it's important that people do take notice of stuff like this and support stuff like this, because it's very important. At the end of the day, it took a long time for people to get to this point where they can openly express themselves and do that, so it's very important. So make sure you go over and support Chinwag, guys. They're doing a brilliant job of that over there, and as I said, it's very important. So yeah, really is.
Nah, you're doing a great job, Dan.
Me for one, I'm very proud of you, and I'm very proud to know you, Dan. But one person I don't think's being proud to know recently is Vince McMahon. He's had a hell of a week, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think to really get down into addressing this is to obviously address, I'm gonna say, Vince as a person and as a character.
Mm-hmm. Well,
because I think for a lot of people, this is like the summation of like everything over time that has like come to the front now, and it's kind of like unavoidable.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm just gonna, before we do go into the whole story of what's broke today, we're just gonna go back through what's happened over the last couple of days. First of all, I think it's good to kind of recap on where we're at, and then we'll get into everything else from there. So just bear with me 1 second while I do find the. I have to go back a couple of bits because there's a lot of things over things. So okay, so it come to light that apparently the boards were looking into a £3 million payment that the chief executive officer Vince McMahon made to a female former employee with whom he's alleged to have an affair with. According to the Wall Street Journal, who were the first to post this, which cited people familiar with the board's actions, McMahon had other non-disclosure agreements regarding misconduct with female employees that the board were investigating. The newspaper also reported citing that the people, the probe, which began in April, also reportedly unearthed similar pacts made with former female workers on behalf of John Laurinaitis, a former wrestler who manages the talent relations, as we know. People said they couldn't determine how many such pacts were being reviewed. A spokesman for the WWE didn't immediately respond, but obviously we know we've got something. So far, the board had concluded that McMahon paid the settlement with his own money. The news reporter citing that one of the people familiar with the situation, McMahon's attorney who seems to get him out of all sorts, Jerry McDivitt, told the newspaper in letter that the former employees of paralegal hadn't made any claims of harassment against his client, as if it wasn't immediately available. So the shares fell about 1.2% after that news. I know that Dale was telling me before, just let me get the thing. So my talk co-host was telling me, let me just go back here, because he actually keeps an eye on the trade to WWE, because he actually has shares. So 2.76% it went down, 2.67%, 2.76% went down. So we are seeing a bit of a movement on there. So first of all, guys, I'll start with you, Dan.
Yeah.
My first question on this is, you know, with this particular lady, I mean, obviously there's other unearthly things that I've been thinking that we may find out more things here. Now, with this lady, it looks like it was a consensual relationship at first. There's no talk here of any kinds of, misconduct, or he treated this lady kind of unfavorably, or any kind of metoo movement or anything like that.
Yeah.
It just seems to be that he has paid it off to keep her quiet, which is quite, it's quite normal for these billionaires and stuff like that in this kind of world to do that type of thing, isn't it?
So yeah, it is to some degree. Obviously, I don't know, because of it being an NDA, whether or not maybe the situation around that had changed. So obviously there have been multiple instances in the past where someone has, engaged in some kind of consensual, we're going to say, affair in this sense, which may then have gradually progressed into something which could have been progressing towards being illegal. This is a thing I have known of from my own experience and have heard stories of. But I guess obviously then as well, it kind of becomes a point of him using the NDA to potentially silence someone that wanted to talk out about him or his practices, or perhaps something else that was happening around that, of which an NDA would potentially stop.
Okay. And, as I say, if these NDAs are common practice, and, we don't know what's going on here. Now, if he's paid this out of his own money, and there's an NDA in close to that, why would the board of directors then start looking into all this?
So
because realistically, he's not paid out of his own. He's not paid out the funds of the company.
Yeah, no. It's tough. It's tough to say for sure. It could potentially be that he was obviously using company routes, i.e., going through company, the company law, obviously, which he probably does have direct connections with outside of the business terms. But maybe if he was using the in-house legal team to do personal legal work, then him paying out of his own money could be potentially a financing violation, but that would be just pure speculation. I think probably the nature of this is then potentially that this has been possibly done without knowledge or approval of the board. I don't know if that's necessarily been confirmed or not.
Yeah, I mean,
can I add
it's
something?
A bit strange. Yeah. Go on, Zane.
Yeah, I think the issue was that her salary had been raised kind of as somewhat of his hush money when she was transferred to John Laurinaitis' office, or when she was promoted. So that's where the company money comes in, because you're kind of paying her out of the company funds. And that is kind of consolidation for the way she was treated and to keep her quiet. Yeah.
I did see that there was a thing about how she was in a position prior and then got moved up to, I think her salary doubled.
Yeah, it went from 100K to 200K.
I saw some people saying she got moved onto directors or a board position, associate board position, but I can't confirm that, so please don't take me as gospel on that.
Okay.
But then obviously if she was going from lower position, receiving promotion and pay rise, and then being put to directors, that would be a pretty flagrant violation.
And do you know what's kind of crazy is, Nick? Just move on to yourself. Like, in my work, I'm like the head of a department. I look after the whole department. Now, Johnny Ace is being dragged into this thing, and I'm not trying to say he's being dragged into it or anything like that because I don't know the situation with him. And it looks like he's involved in this whole sordid affair, which is crazy. Now, how has he managed to get himself caught up in this, for one? And for two, is like, for a bit, like, I've got a director and a CEO who are like my bosses. I report to the board of directors myself, directing my work. Now, I wouldn't see me kind of getting involved in these things with my chairman, because apart from the business meetings that we might have now and again, we don't really have that kind of thing. And maybe that's the culture that's kind of is worrying the board of directors now. Did you think?
It's possible, but I mean, I believe the exact quote is, "She was handed to John Laurinaitis like a toy." Is the quote that's going right? Is the quote that's going round? And whether Johnny Boy has just decided that he wanted to have a quick fling and thought all of this was going to be kept quiet and hush because Vince was going to pay her off, we'll never know. But the man has got himself in a situation that he had no business being involved in the first place. The fact that there is a relationship of that level in a business where a paralegal can be having an affair with the chairman of the board and then all of a sudden can just be passed on to the head of talent relations as if it's a company bonus seems absolutely baffling to me. I've worked in plenty of big companies and not a single one of them I've met my boss, but other than staff meetings and business meetings, that's the relationship you have with your boss. He or she is the person that pays your wages. And that's just about it. It's absolutely mind-boggling that this situation has occurred in a company that is structured and as stringent as WWE.
Yeah. And that's the point, saying, isn't it, of what we were saying is, like, if you're a board of directors and you're seeing this jobs for the boys type of behaviour, and as the commenters said, it was passed on to from Vince McMahon to John Laurinaitis. No, you'd have to act, wouldn't you?
It's disgusting. That's what it is, right? And it's and as Dan mentioned, this isn't the first time it's happening. There's like a long chain of events and everything. There's a lot of things that was leading up to this. Multiple events happened. Multiple allegations came against Vince McMahon. Now, when they were crushed or when they were pressed to the knee, that's another scenario. Now, this has come out, and when the board of directors, when someone's being passed on like joy, as the statement in the article suggested, that's when, like, you have to put a stop to things. Not to say that the other things that Vince did was right. They were abysmal as hell, but what happened right now is something that cannot go unnoticed. And this is somewhere where the board of directors need to be like what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I think this is something that speaks to. I think it's something that speaks to, obviously, the kind of empowered culture that WWE Board clearly has, because I think it's a thing we have spoken about quite a bit, and I think it's a general thing known, kind of generally across WWE. But for a long time, lots of the long-term board members were all friends. They were all somewhat actively involved with each other, and we obviously speak to I think back to 2021 when Laurinaitis was brought back in, and there were articles and statements taken where female talent was saying they were actively worried by him being brought back, which potentially speaks to, again, past infringement, past actions that have happened. But like we said, that thing of the CEO of the company and then the head of talent relations having such a direct connection, and there being seemingly very little oversight over that connection, that link between the two. I'm sure for both you, Andy and Nick, you will have heard the phrase conflict of interest quite a lot, and having to do multiple sheets of relations and ties to people within the company and things like that.
Well, my wife works in my company, and
so
we have to, obviously, at a different level to herself, and we can't really have.
I can't remember the word for it. Declaration of interests or something similar to that.
It is. It's a declaration of interest.
But so it speaks to something like that happening, where someone who has a very close relationship with the CEO being able to go around and seemingly act with impunity, and feel like they're not going to face any kind of response for what they've done.
It's been for years, hasn't it, that Vince McMahon rips up the scripts and does all this. No wonder he feels kind of like, like the alpha male, like untouchable, because it seems like that he can just do what he wants, doesn't he?
I mean, personally, I feel like he's always kind of been empowered to do that ever since about the 80s. Doing my own reading, I think with every kind of great victory he has, I'm going to say, won in a sense. That has been another thing to fuel his belief that he can do what he wants. Because we can talk about WWE as like a conceptual company with stocks and trading options and things like that. But then I think it's also worth saying that WWE as a company and wrestling companies as a whole operate, it seems, completely individually from most other companies of similar stature and similar world. Because you have to think about something like, if we are going to refer to something like the metoo movement, the power that actors have in being actively unionized, and that going for all the staff behind it as well. The power of SAG-AFTRA is immense for securing the interest of actors. Pro wrestling having none of that, having still majority central control in 1 to 2 main figures, boards being made up of people who are mostly friends. A lot of people
That's
say
not
wrestling
technically the case with WWE anymore, Dan.
Not technically the case anymore.
For example, the head of General Motors sits on the board of WWE.
Yeah.
Then,
but
it's made up of tycoons now.
Yeah, but we think about it as this. If we think about it as a being per se, all of a sudden you're looking at something that is very, very different to what you might expect from similar companies in similar environments of similar stature.
Well, that gets into
just to move on, I just want to
independent contractors.
Well, This is it. It's just talking about independent contractors. Just something I want to read here. So, this is a tweet from Nia Jax back in April.
Yeah.
Which is very, very, at the time, to be honest, I always kind of, and I feel bad that I felt like this, but, seeing with Ryback and other people, you just go, okay, yeah, bits of pills, you're on your way out. But, if anything, over the last couple of days, it's very, very relative, and I think like it's worth reading out. So this is what she had to say on Twitter back in April. It's a shame some people deserve the opportunity to shine like the star they really are. But unfortunately, certain higher-ups can never see past their own perverted ways. Too bad. They aren't the lucky ones who can use blackmail to keep their jobs. Random tweet.
I mean, it's a thing worth mentioning.
Very random tweet that seems quite apropos to this situation.
Yeah, it's very apropos at the moment. I always think back to the, I believe it was the statement AJ Lee put out when she left WWE, where she was saying about her time, I believe, working with John Laurinaitis. And something to the effect of, I can't remember the quote exactly, so I don't want to be quoted on this. Something to the effect of, kind of, you're not sexy enough, and I don't think you see why that's a problem for us. So again, we can talk about that kind of culture that's taking place and being allowed to happen. Obviously, this is in the confines and the context of the WWE Divas era.
Wow.
Which comes loaded with
but
its
it's
own
not, is it?
problems.
Tony Storm came out in an interview last week and talked about the fact that John Laurinaitis told her to dress sexier.
Yeah,
and then you look to that, and you get yourself saying the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Well, Athena turned around, didn't he? And apparently she was told, "Why can't you look more like Mandy Rose?"
Which
Go Zayn.
Yeah, I was saying that I just feel like this has been around for a while, and this is something like when John Laurinaitis was brought in last year, they were like, a lot of people were like, well, he's there to deliver the call, or he's there to just fire people. But a lot of the things, like you saw Serena Deeb mention in her AEW promo that she had to get implants, or Gail Kim. Jim Ross has very famously mentioned that Gail Kim was hired because he said to Vince McMahon that people are into Asian porn or something along the lines of that, which is kind of weird because even even in the Divas era or even outside the Divas era, the Divas era was so much so it had such a strong impact that it still affects women's wrestling in WWE to this day. And I'm not gonna say that the wrestlers aren't talented. They are very talented. I don't think there has been a better batch of wrestlers, female wrestlers, ever in WWE. But the way they're being treated with guys like John Laurinaitis or even Vince McMahon at the top, they're going to be short-sighted. They're going to see very particular things. And even if you look at who get the belts or who are more featured more heavily on the show, there's a very similar, quite an acute running pattern there that you can observe from someone who's much akin to the eyes of John Laurinaitis or those of Vince McMahon, because that's the way it's been running for a while.
Yeah. Okay, well, obviously, since that part that this has happened, we've moved on from this now, and it's got a lot different. So, WWE announced today Vince McMahon was stepping down as chairman, aimed the ongoing investigation into the alleged affair with a company paralegal. As I said, this is a thingy so far. Temporary step down. It doesn't mean he's going to thingy.
Yeah.
So. It says that McMahon will remain as part of the company's creative team, which we are the 12 board member, including Stephanie McMahon and husband Paul Levesque, better known as Triple H, investigates the allegations. Vince McMahon's personal attorney, Jerry Tibbett, did not reply to anything. So I'm just going to look at the statements if I can find them. Just give me 2 seconds. But there's a lot to unpack here straight away. Let me just find the actual thing if I can, because Forbes is shite. Okay, doke. See, it's even made BBC News here, which is crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, the amount of news that has come out in the past 3 weeks is insane, especially pertaining to wrestling.
Yeah.
So let me just get WWE corporate up.
If I may, just while you're looking that up, the fact that they've put Stephanie in charge as the interim CEO when she clearly knew about this investigation, which started in April, which was 2.5. She only left 2 weeks ago when she stepped down from her position.
Yeah, to take care of her family.
But the fact that she's been brought in as interim CEO, to me, comes across as nothing more than a hush move. Because Vince McMahon has been accused of sexual incongress against a lady. What better way than to make it look like your company is not a sexist buffoon than to have a woman in charge? It's been done before. It's been done in many, many countries. I think Stephanie's probably the perfect woman for the job. But hello, Russ.
Hello.
Well, Bill out.
It's your hairs, eh?
Yeah, it's
well,
probably
let's hope you're well. Go through what you reckon on Vince.
I do hear you on that, Nick. Obviously, I think it comes loaded with its own. It's its own matters, and it's quite a thing to address about it. But I think the choice of bringing Stephanie in is certainly an interesting one, especially when you position it against obviously the moves that Nick Khan has made in terms of the corporate structure.
Well, you've got a perfectly good Nick Khan sat right there. He seemed like the perfect person to be brought in. He's not tainted with any of this scandal. He's made, as far as the board are concerned, fantastic financial moves for the company. The fact that they've avoided using Nick Khan, who was the perfect man for the job, to bring Stephanie in, it just seems like it's a political move.
Oh my!
Here's the question. Here's a question, Nick. Sorry to interrupt you, Andy, but
no, go on.
What if like Nick? It's like Vince realizing what Nick Khan is doing, because everyone on the outside feels like Nick Khan is. This is basically Game of Thrones, the Red Wedding episode, where he's just cutting everyone's legs off, right? And he's just like on his way on a power run up to the top. And what if Vince is kind of caught onto that? And what if they're like, oh, maybe we don't want this guy at the top?
Strangely enough,
Well,
that's
let's
where I was
face it,
going.
there's always going to be a McMahon, I believe. Unless the company's sold off, I think there'll be a McMahon, and I think Stephanie was the prime one. You know, she'd done a lot of work with the brand officer, didn't she, and everything else, so she'd be the obvious one. And then also, with it being a women's scandal and that, you know, putting a woman in charge is a masterstroke by them. It really is.
That's the point I'm making. It's a great hush move. But it's not only that, by the looks of it, the worry is that Stephanie is going to be the figurehead, because they've already released and said Vince is still going to carry on with his creative duties in WWE.
Which is sad.
Yeah, and that is a major problem. And I mean, I guess at some point we'll get to talking about it, where they said that Vince.
Okay, we will do. Well,
on SmackDown.
Just before we go on to all this stuff, I'm going to read out off WWE Corporate the actual statement that they released. So, WWE, the Board of Directors, announced today that a special committee of the board is conducting an investigation into alleged misconduct by its chairman and CEO, Vince McMahon, and John Laurinaitis, head of talent relations. And that, effective immediately, McMahon has voluntarily stepped back from his responsibilities as CEO and chairman of the board. He was definitely told to step back. McMahon will attain his role and responsibilities to WWE creative content during this period and remains committed to cooperating with the review underway. The special committee has appointed Stephanie McMahon to serve as interim CEO and intern chairwoman. I have pledged my complete cooperation to investigation by the special committee, and I will do everything possible to support the investigation. I've also pledged to accept the findings and outcomes of the investigation, whatever they are, said Mr. McMahon. I love this company, and I'm working with the independent directors to strengthen our culture and company. It is extremely important for me that we have a safe and collaborative workplace. I am committed to doing everything in my power to help the special committee complete its work, including marshalling the cooperation of the entire company to assist in the completion of the investigation and to implement its findings. WWE Board takes all allegations of misconduct seriously. The independent board engages legal counsel to assist them with an independent review. In addition, the special committee and WWE will work with an independent third party to conduct a comprehensive review of the company's compliance program, HR function, and overall culture. The company and the board do not expect to comment further on this until the investigation is completed. They haven't given no time frame on the investigation. Vince stepping back's a massive PR stunt.
Yep.
Whether he comes back though or not, that's another matter. Because
he's gonna come back.
If they do the investigation correctly, and I'm not saying that he's guilty of anything, because for me personally, if he's humped some girl backstage working there, and that is the whole of it, and he's paid the money to keep quiet, for me personally, he shouldn't lose his job over that, because rich people do that all the time. It's whether it's morally wrong or not, you know. For me, that's not the case. But
on the moral subject, it takes two to tango. It was supposed to be.
Yeah, and that's what I say. Sorry, I just want to be very clear on this as well about the fact of, like, what I mean by that is if it was consensual relationship that's just being paid to keep it quiet or whatever, you know, then for me he shouldn't be fired. If there's other things,
the consensual thing goes out of the window when the passing out. Like, as long as it was between her and Vince McMahon and him raising the salary and it was consensual, sure, that's fine. But the statement that she was passed on to John Laurinaitis as a toy, that's where it, like,
exactly. But that's why I'm saying, Zane, that's what I'm saying. If it's just the first bit and the other bits are loads of nonsense and whatever else, then for me that should be the end of it. If there's all this other stuff to go with it, then obviously there's another story to tell there, Dan, isn't there?
I mean, you know, it's obviously difficult to say. I mean, personally, I would be of the mind if you are Nick Khan, and I would say from my own perspective, any real wrongdoing that you're finding should really be your cause to be looking at moving Vince out of the company. You obviously have to think about, even disregarding the nature of the offences and allegations, something which Nick Khan has been very hot on, which is the optics of keeping him in the company. And I think the thing of him staying in control of creative is absolutely ridiculous right now. But really, you know, we need to be getting down to the point of, as well, is it that Vince is enabling this culture to take place? is he enabling this behavior? Is he actively encouraging and endorsing and supporting it? Because if we're hearing the story that he is then passing people on to John Laurinaitis afterwards, that's active engagement. That's active participation.
Oh,
in
that's massive. That's massively a danger culture. But what I'm saying is, just to get the Zane, just let me get this question answered by Dan. If it is proved that he didn't pass anybody on or anything like that, as far as the investigation is concerned, he's had an affair with this woman, he's paid her to keep quiet, do you think he should lose his job based on just that one, nothing else?
On just that, then it's really, really difficult to say, because it would have to be case by case. It would have to come down to individual factors. But either way, I would still maintain my position that I would not want Vince anywhere near that company after this situation has taken place.
Okay, and Zane.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm not sure if this was mentioned in the same article or this was an incident that happened with another female worker, but apparently Vince allegedly raped a female worker in his limousine. And I'm not sure if this was the same, if there was mentioned in the same article, or this popped up recently, because a thread went viral recently of all the bad things Vince has done. And maybe it was mentioned in that. But I think there's enough moral grounds for Vince to step down. And now, like, I understand where you're coming from when you're saying that, like, morally it might be wrong. Even though morally it might be wrong, rich people have done enough stuff not to step down. But I feel, but the fact that this isn't a first time issue, and I feel like an investigation is being launched because this has been leading up to this point, and there has been a chain of events that have happened before this. So I feel like Vince needs to step down, and him stepping down from the CEO position isn't allowed. As long as he doesn't leave WWE, I don't think the investigation would have done its part.
I mean, obviously, it's worth saying as well that this investigation could just be the tip of the iceberg.
Fair enough. Yeah.
This could be, the tipping point of a large collection of other actions and behaviors that have been done, perhaps possibly by other members of staff inside WWE, not just confined to Vince and John Laurinaitis. So it's obviously that could be a consideration to take in with this.
To play devil's advocate. To play devil's advocate, there is a chance that the board of directors are going to deliberately use this investigation to remove Vince McMahon. There is a very good chance that they've looked at the fiscal year that Nick Khan has produced, or the fiscal years that Nick Khan has produced in the last 2 or 3 years, compared to what Vince McMahon was able to produce before that, and have decided that now, allegations aside, this is the perfect time for Vince to be removed from power.
So that is obviously a very active consideration. I don't know what that would necessarily come under in terms of like actual business practice. But I mean, obviously, it is a thing worth considering, because obviously, what is worth saying about this is that obviously with the increased power that Nick Khan has taken over the few years, obviously the talk about the potential and possible sale of WWE taking place. Yeah. Obviously, if that was done without Vince in the picture, would be a much smoother process. But obviously that's a quite a sharp conjecture to try and make at this current point.
Speculation city.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just one thing that I want to go from here, right? I've just typed in because I wanted to know. I was quite interested in this. Is can a board of directors fire a majority holder chairman? Right. So and this is one of the things here. So if I own my own company shares as CEO, chairman of the board, can the board fire me? If the largest shareholder tells the manager, kind of thing. In most cases, director of publicly owned company has the ability to sever the employment of the CEO, who serves as the approver of the company's board of directors. The company's board of directors is, in fact, the true and highest management position, with the president of the board of directors being the absolute highest position in the company. There would be CEO's responsibility, where the board of directors normally convene meeting quarterly to update the company's position by the CEO and to present a financial of the quarterly meetings, which we've already known about. These reports, particular things, so hopes this help. They can't do that if the CEO is also their boss. Okay, so if directly, no, he cannot fire the CEO. However, so it doesn't look like they can fire him.
They might have a
Because
process
he's the
such as like a vote
majority.
of no confidence, so they could be able to enact, which could then
and
eventually
Vince
lead
will have to
to
step down.
a legal decision.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, at the moment, they seem to be saying to him that you can step down as the CEO and chairman, but keep you creative. So that might be the way to kind of get around this for him. But as you alluded to, Dan, if there's more stuff comes out, you know, as a publicly traded company whose main target audience and demographic is children, you can't have a man like that round backstage, round these superstars and people like that. If he's no, you know, for the culture to change, you've got to remove the, you know, if you want to remove a weed and you want to stop something from going out, you've got to get right to the bottom of it. You've got to dig through to it and dig it out.
To take on some of the
off its head.
Yeah, to take on some of the conversation, I think it can actually, in a lot of ways, echo a lot of the conversation around the old NXT UK and Progress management. That the culture that was happening there that allowed the horrible stuff that happened to take place was being enabled by the management. It wasn't necessarily that they were even supporting it; they were actively complicit in it and covering it up, and in terms of doing their own investigations that never actually progressed anything. So. That would be a massive concern for a publicly traded company to have to try and deal with as I said, just in terms of optics.
And that's what I mean. You know, as I said there, you've got to get the weeds out, haven't you? And I've gotten a lot with my father, and it's like when we go down and you're cutting weeds out or whatever, and we've been there in the past, we have to get the weeds out. If you just pull it from the top, next minute, it grows back and it grows back more. So you've got to dig right down. You've got to get right to the source of where it's coming from and get out. And sometimes that can be meters underground, And the reason I'm saying that is, if there is this culture and everything else, and Vince McMahon is found to be really like part of this culture, John Laurinaitis is just going to be his little, yes boss, no boss, your arm's a great boss, you know what I mean? And there's probably other people in that.
Yes,
there has been
glad-handed, nonsensical yes man.
There's been a lot of talk about Laurinaitis being the fall guy for this.
Yeah. But the thing is, it really can't, because if the board look at it and there's been so much bad on it, the buck stops with Vince, and I think that's where maybe Stephanie could take over and then bring Triple H in, and we could have a fresh thing. Because, as I said, even at the moment with some of the girls on the telly, we're still seeing some of this nonsense with them, aren't we, now and again? And what else? And that is all going to be brought under scrutiny, and the American media are going to have a field day with it. And there's only so much that WWE are going to take before they go.
Already are. Then some big website pick it up. I think someone did, and they're trolling Vince on it. I'm not sure.
Imagine when they start bringing up the Kiss My Ass Club and all like that.
We can. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. This was released in the Wall Street Journal, correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get in America. There is no bigger media for newspapers and news than the Wall Street Journal. The fact that it's not been released in the dirt sheets, it's not been released in some glad rag, it was released in the Wall Street Journal, means this is being taken more seriously than anything that's happened in WWE.
I know, but what I'm saying is, Nick, is we've only had the one thing of it so far. Now, obviously, these medias have reported this main thing with Lauritas and Vince. Now, they've reported Vince stepping down. I'm telling you now, as we're speaking, a lot of them mainstream media people will be grabbing tapes, looking at stuff, trying to figure out things, speaking to people. Wouldn't surprise me if Nia Jax is getting the door banged down right now. Do you know what I mean? And all these things will come across. The other thing that worries me now, right, is someone like The Rock, who's, really family man, known for this, or like that, Does he still appear at WrestleMania, or does he want to keep himself away from it?
You're still worried about your ticket, aren't you?
I am, mate, yeah.
Damn right.
Yeah, I think it's a thing worth thinking about, and I know this is quite a large statement to say, but I think we can say to a good level of confidence that WWE has damaged the perception of women's wrestling in the US and I'm gonna say the West.
But also, don't forget, Dan, I know they've damaged it, but they also had the first WrestleMania headliner as women. They've also had Evolution, which I believe is probably more Stephanie pushing that.
I think we need to think about that as progress in contextual terms. In context to what else they've done, yes, that is progress, but I think we can still say there's a major deficit behind. I looked at the Queen's Crown tournament and how that went in terms of numbers compared to the King of the Ring. But you know, like we said,
I thought both of them were poor.
Yeah, but you know,
I think Xavier won.
We can look over like the history of what's been happening in WWE, and like I said, you know, with everything that's going on now, and you're saying like, is The Rock going to want to be involved? I don't know.
To say the Rock can't be that easily offended because he was perfectly happy to work for the company when Trish was made to strip and bark like a dog.
Yeah. Again, and he's got his daughter there, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah, and he was perfectly fine working with the company even after it had gone to the Saudi.
Okay, Zayn. Yeah. Right, with Stephanie as CEO, we're going to move on to that now. But first question for you is, how long before she brings Evolution 2?
I think it's long overdue. To be fair, I feel like it's long overdue. It needed to happen before the pandemic, but the pandemic struck, and I feel like there was in the middle some talk about it happening. But I feel like it's going to happen this fall. It's going to happen as early as maybe winter, like at the end of this year. I feel like. But the thing is that I have a question for you, Andy. Like, kind of reverse the tables on you.
There's a cream for
it. No, it's actually about tonight and Vince McMahon segment. I'm not sure if we're going to get to it, but what do you think is going to say?
We are going to get. Well, we'll finish. We'll go to the segment now. Actually, it's perfect time. Then we'll talk about Stephanie. To be honest, I want to show Stephanie the respect of giving her own segment rather than bringing it in and out and not focusing on that. So we'll move on to that. Let's finish with Vince first. So yeah, Vince McMahon is, and do you know what the interesting thing is at the moment? Right, is I went on the WWE corporate site because on the main WWE.com they haven't mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't even released. Let me just check and see if they've updated now. So I've got WWE corporate open. Okay, so they haven't mentioned anything about Vince McMahon leaving as CEO or whatever else. But what they are advertising right now is Vince McMahon appearing on SmackDown tonight, which will be interesting. Now, I don't know what he's going to say or whatever else, or whether it's a way to write him off. But the interesting thing that gets me with this is, like, Sean Ross Sapp reported before and said, oh, it's a way to write him off and he's going to come up with an angle. He wasn't on TV anyway, so there's no need to write him off.
No. I just think it's an absolute genius PR stunt. If you want to increase the ratings for SmackDown after the scandal that Vince has just been announced in, you announce Vince McMahon's going to be on SmackDown. Because it doesn't matter what he says, people are going to tune in to see what the hell he's going to say. It's a genius PR move in an absolutely terrible situation. It's another prime example of Vince taking manure and making a rosebed out of it.
Oh, well, that's what you call it, isn't it? Is old carny
I know what
attitude.
he's going to say, though.
Do you think that he's going to get booed, Zane?
Oh, definitely. I have a perfect idea of what he's going to say. Some reports mention that he's going to come out in character, and what if he just pulls a pipe bomb and he just looks at the camera and he goes, "Fire me, Stephanie, you fucking mark. Fire me." And then that's it. And that's the end of the segment. They cut his mic off, they cut to break, and that's the last we see of Vince in a year.
Yeah. That'd be superb, but I doubt that's how it's going to go down.
No, it's not. But I don't know what he's going to do. To be honest, it's really.
It literally is. It couldn't be.
You're not wrong, Russ. You're not. Yeah.
I think
You want to see the pictures he sends me in WhatsApp, Russ?
Oh God, I don't think I do.
No. Just the fact that he's advertised himself, like I said, it's PR genius. But
it is. It's that carnal attitude. If
I say it's PR genius in the most disgusting way possible.
Oh yeah, completely.
But you're talking about the man who kept on wrestling after someone died in his ring.
But this is what I mean. It is PR in the most disgusting way possible, because I know that
it's
people are
completely
going to be
gross.
there and they're going to want to watch it, and they're going to be like, "Oh, what's Vince going to say?" And I have this internal feeling that the moment that No Chance hits, everyone in that crowd is just going to be chanting without even realizing why they're doing it and why they're there.
I've got a couple of mates who haven't watched. Well, I've watched a couple of. I've got a couple of mates who haven't watched SmackDown in years. They're tuning in tonight because they want to know what he's going to say.
Do you know what would be the best thing ever if he comes out and goes, "I've had enough. Right, Stephanie, you want control of my company. I'll pick somebody, you pick somebody, something like that." And then that way you can turn around and go off into the sunset.
I don't need a McMahon in every corner again.
What about
Shane? What you mean? So Shane shows up and wins Money in the Bank?
Yes.
Yeah. This is
what you get for this happening. This is why you don't do
fuck
stuff
your Rock
behind the backs
versus
of
Roman
people
for
in
Mania.
corporate.
Yeah, fuck Rock versus Roman for Mania. Fuck Orton versus Riddle. Fuck Cody winning the Rumble. This is what we want to see. Mr. McMahon versus Nick Khan in the main event of WrestleMania 39.
Nick Khan's going to partner with Shane to buy out the company.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I do want to mention as well is, and I think it's it's a really sobering thought as well. Let's not forget that Vince is married. And, his poor wife must be like going through the
because I wanted to touch on this. And I didn't know if we'd have a time to do it.
Oh, we can go on all night, mate.
Which is the bit from the Vince McMahon Pat McAfee interview. Because in that, at one point, I think he slips and says, "My then wife." And
he does say that then wife.
But just to clarify as well, this investigation that's going on already has been going on since April.
Yeah.
So it's not something at the start and now it's something that started back in April.
Can I add something to that?
So
apparently a recent report from Dave Meltzer suggests that Linda and Vince have been separated for a while, and they haven't been together. And
it came from Meltzer.
I know. But
ounce of salt.
They have been together for just PR stunt, because Linda kind of brings in the big money from the sponsors and stuff, and she has some political ties, and that's what helps. And they only meet together; they're only together at public events. And this hasn't been just a recent report. These rumors have been going around for years, and it's been Vince and Linda are just together as a publicity stunt. They're married just for that sake. Yeah. And I'm not really sure if there's any.
Just to let you know, Zane, that Linda McMahon didn't just have political ties. She was actually the administrator of small businesses in the presidential administration from 2017 to 2019.
Big political ties.
Yeah. So she was actually part of the Republican Party and served on the administration, which is interesting.
I'm sure that had nothing to do with the money donated to, I believe it was the Florida Athletics Commission.
The Florida Athletics Commission to get WWE recognised as essential business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting, guys, not another way. And I think if Vince McMahon's the man that I think he is, if he's already on borrowed time, he'll want to bang it into an angle and get his final farewell of some kind of big deal.
I couldn't agree more.
I think it's definitely the thing. It's definitely the thing he would do. But in terms of the situation right now, it's about the worst thing he could do.
Yeah, but at the same time, he built the ground up, and if they want to get rid of him, that's a perfect way to do it. If that's what he wants to do, let him do it. Give him his last hurrah.
And
have him get blown up in that limo finally.
Yeah. And the most disgusting part about this is that even his character is a pervert. He himself is, sure. But his character has been portrayed as such, so it's not going to be difficult for him to turn this into an angle, which is going to be extremely fucking disgusting and gross, and no one would want to see that.
It's where we say, where does the character end and the person start?
I feel like someone summed it up. I'm not sure who did, but it's a character is someone's own personality turned up to 10. So yeah, there is some truth
in
every
Cornette.
character. In every
Jim Cornette, the best wrestlers, play themselves with the volume turned up to 11.
Yeah.
Well, Vince McMahon's a strange guy anyway. I'm going to quote something because I always keep these quotes in my head. And I never forget them from Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. It's a great podcast, by the way. He's another one of fucking Vince's cronies, isn't he? But Vince doesn't like giraffes. No. And when he's questioned why he doesn't like giraffes, it's because they're the biggest animal in the jungle, but they eat leaves. You're not buying it.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, this is a man who doesn't like anything that he can't personally control himself.
Yeah,
this is a man who says sneezing is a sign of weakness.
He says he doesn't.
And thinks that the funniest thing in the world is he says the funniest thing in the world is pushing a fully clothed person into a swimming pool.
Yeah.
This man
and his other one, it was, he doesn't like cats because he thinks that the arrogant bastards who walk around ask for everything and give you nothing, but they'll expect everything from you.
I could say that about people in WWE management.
I could say that about my fucking kids. But no, it's just
even Ashton.
Obviously, yes, especially Ashton. If it wasn't even that long ago, I walked past this, just to give you an insight to this very quickly, but I know it's not wrestling related, but it's quite funny. I was walking past the shop not long ago, pointed to a game in the shop window. Can I have that? No. Where do you think I'm getting the money from that? Well, there's a cash machine there and there and there. Shoved the shoulders and walk. I was like, and that's what you deal with, mate, with kids. You know what I mean? It's just so simple. But as I said, it just seems like with Vince, he is this enigma, isn't he? And he's got this personality which is just out there, and but also as well is he's had this universe for years, and he's created everything. He's done it from start to finish. He's obviously a great mind, and if you wanted to keep him there in the background, it'd probably do you some good. But the WWE product as a whole has been very bland for a while, and we've heard about all these things of Vince stripping the, apparently even to do with this one tonight. Apparently he's ripped up the whole thing and done it again.
Yeah.
And that's what he does, and he gets away with it, and he's allowed to do it, and he's allowed to think it because these board directors probably don't even know what's going on creatively.
It's not only just that, but he's been operating this way for 40 years, and it's always worked for him.
I think the best way to sum it up is there's a phrase which is an old master, which means a person who has obviously been successful, but they've kind of rested on their laurels per se. He has been successful. His model has worked. He's turned WWE into a media giant, but there also has to be a point where you have to say, is his mode of thinking, is his creative process conducive with the current product?
Yeah.
Is it what people actually want to see? Is it actually engaging with things the way they want? Because we can think about this and think about how, again, it's one of the things I said, WWE is a media giant in its own right. And yet, as a product, it has done very little to actually engage with popular culture. It has taken until the last kind of 2 years for them to properly start doing that. And they hadn't done that since the 90s.
Well, it's not even that they properly started doing it. They've been doing it for years. They just always do it late. Like the X-Men movies were big in the 2000 to 2004. He brought Hugh Jackman on in 2011 and did a Magneto versus Wolverine skit 10 years after the movie's been passé.
Yeah. One thing I want to ask as well is I've just sort of noticed out the corner of my eye here, guys, when I'm looking at the on my phone here with the stuff. It says here Vince McMahon will address the WWE Universe. It doesn't say he's going to appear. It says he will address. Do you think it's going to be a? It's going to be a.
So I know it says appear. A satellite video link. Even though
it just says
a satellite.
Yeah, it doesn't say that he's going to come out or.
It's last say.
So it'll be interesting. Another thing I want to ask as well is, right. So all this is going on. WWE need to kick up. They need to kind of get things rolling again. Get the Vince McMahon stuff out of the Google searches, off the social media and that. Did we see Riddle win the title tonight?
I hope so. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the stipulation is if he doesn't win, he can't challenge for the title again.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the perfect opportunity to have him win.
Yeah.
That story already writes itself, and at the moment, a feel-good burst for the fans might be the best PR move they can make.
That outburst on social media and everywhere else, Dan, you know, that could come along with a Riddle title win.
Absolutely. It could be a thing that would obviously help their engagement in
And he's back.
In a positive
and you know,
way.
they think of social media massively, don't they? Massively, because it's a massive outfit.
I mean, they will, insofar that I'm going to say WWE have a very kind of, to this point, even still slightly outdated social media strategy and social media traction.
That's a real possibility.
But yeah, obviously, again, like I said, they'll be thinking of the optics, and I'm sure there'll be a thing where they'll try and platform whatever happens at the end ahead of whatever happens with Vince addressing.
Yeah, I just think with Vince, with the report that Vince has ripped up the script, and that was what got me kind of thinking about that. Vince is known for this shot, you know, take the attention away, bang. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's your big thing because let's face it, WWE have always been the same. As they love social media and they love them kind of clicks on YouTube, the clicks on the, you know, it's all about this stuff that always trended on Twitter, all that kind of stuff, and you know, be a really good way to kind of get the ball.
It's not just that, but look at even during the steroid trial. I believe it was 2 weeks after the steroid trial went away. All the champions in WWE changed to guys that weren't big body guys because he needed to project a public image that was no longer.
He might need to get a nice.
I know it's often the butt of the joke, but I think it is also a worthwhile point. I'm gonna say, talking about the subsection of WWE fans that I'm gonna use the phrase. Do you guys remember Stand Up for WWE? Don't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that kind of support culture around WWE. That even in the face of other stuff, you're actively defending the product and defending the integrity in the name and stuff like that. I feel might have a very
but that's the same in any sport, mate, with fans.
It absolutely is. But I think it's still a worthwhile consideration when talking about kind of the optics of this situation, and you know, when we're talking about like Vince addressing the fans, and then, you know, whatever else happens on the show, championships changing hands and all of that stuff.
Andy, I have a question.
I told you there's a team for that.
Yeah.
You need to go to the doctors and get it checked, son.
It's a problem for a lot of men.
What are you guys saying?
Just remember, mate, if it's white, it's all right.
Okay.
If it's green, it's green.
Yeah. I have a question for you. You said that this might be done to sway attention away from McMahon if Riddle wins the title tonight. But if he wants attention to sway away from him, why is he opening the show live on TV? Right?
Well, we don't know what he's going to do, though.
I think the mindset behind that is that if they delay it in any way, shape, or form, people are going to see that as them dodging and preparing.
Yeah. And the thing is, instead of him going and giving a press conference to all these news channels and letting them get it, you know what Vince McMahon's like? He's like, well, I'm not going to give them the ratings boost.
Yeah, I'm going to have control over. I say,
I'm going to do it on Raw.
Unironically, he wants to control the narrative about this situation regarding him.
Of course he does. The one thing we've all got to account is Vince has got bigger balls than most blokes on this planet. If he's going to get hung out to dry, he's going to hang himself.
But when you have to use the phrase controlling their narrative seriously, people think I'm talking about that, and I'm not. But he genuinely wants to control the narrative about this situation by doing it on a product for a company that he is the CEO of, and not giving it to news outlets at a press release.
Yeah, and the segment ends
how awesome would it be, right?
With an announcement. Vince McMahon has controlled his narrative.
Awesome. If you come out and he was like, "There's been allegations made against me." It was me, Universe. It was me all.
That's awful. I feel bad for laughing on that. Fuck you, man.
Nah. The fact is,
I'm not trying to be light of it, but you know, every situation has got to be a bit of light because it's too much dark.
You have to.
Anyway, let's talk about the light guys and move on from that because we've been going earlier now, so let's just start wrapping things up. But you know, we've talked about the dark. Let's talk about the light. Stephanie McMahon. She's got a shot that she's been getting prime for since she was a young kid. So, you know, good for her to get a chance in that. Do you think she's a...
I think Stephanie's the wisest choice they could have made in this current situation. Not only because she's a lady, and having a lady in charge when the allegations have all been made from men to women is exceptionally smart political move. But I think she's earned it more than anybody else. Like, Shane's a blithering idiot. The man doesn't know how to do business. He's had multiple failed attempts to create his own business empire, and he always comes back to WWE. Stephanie
That's the time he tried to buy the UFC.
Sorry,
I love that story personally. It's brilliant.
And Vince told him it wasn't worth it because it was a rinky-dink 2-bit company.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. No, but Stephanie is the wisest choice, I think, for the position to be held. It's a great political move for as far as the face. The only worry for me is she going to actually be doing the CEO's job, or is she merely going to be a shadow while Vince still controls everything in the background?
I feel like she's going to be the shadow. I feel like she's going to be the figure in ahead, like, because if Vince isn't stepping down from creative control, then I feel like what's then left as the CEO and the chairman, I feel like Vince is still going to be pulling the strings from behind as long as the investigation continues. This is as big of a PR stunt as it comes, because until and unless the investigation ends, I feel like Vince still has control, and this is just done. And as I think Dan and Nick, we both mentioned that this is done just to show that WWE isn't a sexist company. We have Steph here.
Yeah.
We're putting.
The thing is, though, I feel like people are selling Stephanie short. Though, you know, she's done a lot of good. She's done a lot with women's rights. She has. You know, the cancer stuff. She's done a lot of brand awareness. She's done the whole Evolution pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I believe she was involved in the talks to get the women to wrestle in Saudi. She was a big, supporter of that. So, you know, she's done a lot, and I just hope that this isn't a kind of, you know, just a gig to put her there in the front and go, look, we've got a woman in charge, you know, because
that's
let's face it, Stephanie's got the credentials and she could actually do this job. So, you know, good luck to her. I hope she did. I think the one, when I first seen this news, I only seen the fact of at first was that Vince stepped down, and I was kind of thinking, well, Stephanie, and then maybe Paul Heyman and Triple H in the creative room, and you know, you can kind of do it where, you know, now it looks like Stephanie's interested. Tell you whose name's not being mentioned, guys, and I'm interested. Bruce Pritchard. Nobody's mentioned him at all.
Yeah,
Bruce doesn't. He's got nothing to do with it being old. It's because Bruce told Vince. Because Bruce told Vince when he came back to work, he wanted no more responsibility than being the head writer on one show. Vince even tried to get him to do Raw and SmackDown. He said, no, I'll only do one or the other, and I want no more responsibility ahead of that, because he's far too busy a man with all the work he does with Conrad Thompson.
Yeah, and here's the thing about Stephanie. It's like, I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve it. Like, she deserves it a lot, but the timing is really interesting because she just stepped down from, like, her position of, like, a couple of weeks back, and now she's being brought back up here. Yeah,
well,
do you think she found out what was going on? Yeah, and she was disgusting. That's a way to get her back in.
Yeah, I honestly think she found out about the allegations and said, I'm done with you this. And the wisest thing she could have done, just step away and remove yourself from the situation.
No, I think that's an entirely real possibility.
Yeah,
it's a massive possibility. But either way, she's the one with the keys to the castle at the moment, and we wish her all the best of luck. I'm sure you guys do.
Not only that, but on a plus note, Triple H comes along part and parcel with Stephanie. And I know through all of his health issues, etc. But if it comes to the point where Vince is told he has to step down as head of creative as well as CEO, just put Triple H. You can always have Triple H come in and fill that position, and I think he'll do a better job anyway. Yeah.
Well, that's all going to be for us, guys. I know you've put a comment there, Bilal. We are going to go have our normal podcast on Sunday, where we go through all the week's news.
We can touch upon that, can't we?
No, we can't. Shut up, Zane.
Man, I just wrote an article about it. I have that information fresh in my head.
You've got to dangle it.
Yeah,
dangle it for people, you knob.
Is that because you want
to can't just give everybody everything at once?
It's because we're keeping it for our podcast.
Yeah. I just want to talk about it because my internet is going to last until Sunday or Saturday.
No, shut up, mate.
You're going to have to come back on Sunday and talk about it then.
Yeah.
And in the meantime,
Okay,
go
We'll
Sharkfish.
be here on Sunday to talk about it. Hopefully, we'll have everyone here with us and be a thing. But we will be back for our normal podcast, guys. That was just a bit of an insight. And to be honest with you, the whole podcast was kind of threw together, guys, because we wanted to give you a little bit of content on what was going on. But also, it's good for all of us to have a chat about it as well, because we can only fire so much in messages and that, can't we, guys? So it's good to have a quick chat on all these things. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm looking forward to SmackDown, which I haven't said in a long while.
So am I.
I suppose that's and I'd say that doesn't mean that myself or any of us are trying to put down the allegations that have happened, guys, or nothing like that. But you know, I don't know about all yous, but even in bad situations, I always like to try and find a bit of a laugh and a joke and stuff like that with it. You know what I mean? So
it's not only that. This is a Vince McMahon problem. This is not a WWE problem. We can't blame the company and the guys that work for the company because of the actions of one man.
Yeah.
Two men.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Hey, boss.
Well, possible multiple men.
I was gonna say, I might come back to you on that one, Chief.
Right, well, anyway, wrestle buddies, thanks so much for watching me. Appreciate you, every one of you. Please join us again on Sunday when we will be back with our weekly podcast, which we'll probably discuss this in a bit more further. The fallout from Vince McMahon appearing on SmackDown, Riddle's title shot, the Young Fucks winning the AEW Tag Team Champions again.
Which I'm sure Jimmy's got a lot to say about.
I hope he doesn't show up on Sunday.
And we'll probably talk about something else interim, because at the moment it seems AEW have got the interim. I hope WWE don't fuck up the interims that the way that AEW do. And it's one of them, isn't it? Well, you've got an interim champion, hold my beer. We're going to get an interim CEO.
We got an interim CEO.
Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, like and subscribe to our channel, guys. We're here all the time for you. Good to everyone who joined us. Just before we finish, I'm just going to pop this comment up again, because it's just the best comment of the day. Austin comes and stuns Vince, and also it's all fine. Vince struggling to the 30 years ago. Two of the best comments of the day. Well done, guys. But from all of us, Zane, you can have your say on Sunday, mate, when we reconvene. But from all of us for now, take care. Peace out.